Welcome in. I'm Jason Priester. Another Monday live from allclemsontigers.com, part of the Clemson Maven multimedia platform, covering all things Clemson sports. Appreciate anybody out there tuning in. Second week YouTube exclusive. we'll see how it goes. Clemson baseball team just keeps rolling right along, man. It's really hard to put into words the turnaround that we have seen with this program since the beginning of April. That it gets swept by Wake Forest, not looking too good, and they are like 19-4 since. They've won 8 straight, swept 2 consecutive ACC series, won 6 straight ACC series. And not only has this team played itself into position of being a host for a regional, we now talking about national seed. They are up to 8th in the RPI. Got some opportunity next weekend to even strengthen that position with North Carolina coming to town, another team that's extremely hot at this moment. And North Carolina's got a lot to play for. They'll be playing for a potential host seed. You know, they're right there in the mid-20s in the RPI, come in and sweep Clemson, and that would certainly strengthen their case. That's what they would need to do. But if Clemson could take 2 out of 3 or even sweep that thing, you know, if they sweep, that locks up the second spot overall in the ACC tournament or the second seed overall, and I would feel very confident about their chances of hosting and being a national seed. Having said all that, still got to win tomorrow night, Tuesday night. USC Upstate rematch from earlier in the year. Upstate actually won that game back before this big turnaround we've seen from Clemson. So maybe a little bit of a revenge game for the Tigers. See who Eric Backus decides to roll out there on the mound. He's used a bunch of different guys in that midweek role this year. Not sure who it'll be this week. Tristan Smith started last week against Coastal, but he pitched a couple times out of the bullpen this weekend. Jackson Lindley started the week before that. Maybe he gets another shot at it this week. We'll see. Upstate's a team that does not have a strong RPI. I meant to look for. I jumped on here at exactly where they were. I looked the other day and I forgot, but it's I think it's closer to 200 than it is 100. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what it is. So it's a game you can't afford to drop. You gotta take care of business, at home tomorrow night, and then welcome to Tar Heels to town. Softball's hosting this weekend too. Is it supposed to be Joe Allen? I haven't seen who I hadn't seen anything from the school yet about who's. I could see it being Joe Allen. He's not pitched a lot here of late, so I could definitely see it being him. Softball's hosting too, though. You're gonna have baseball at home over the weekend. Softball hosting. Big weekend of round ball, round bat. It's a little surprised softball hosted, to be honest. I was not expecting it. I thought they would be the first one out or first 2 out, however you want to say it. I thought they probably needed to get to the ACC championship game to host. I know they were sitting at 14th in the RPI, but their strength of schedules on the weak side, and they had lost 4 of their last 6. So I was a little surprised. I was not expecting them to host. I'll be very honest. All right, USC Upstate is closer to 100 than 200. They're 97. They're a little higher than they was when I looked. But softball, Auburn's the 2 seed. Not one of the easier regionals, but you're not gonna, if you're the overall 16 seed, you're not gonna have one of the easier regionals. That's just the way it is. We'll see if the bats can wake up. Tigers have struggled at the plate of late. We saw it in the ACC tournament, 3 hits in their win over Duke. No hit, or 3 hits in the first game, no hit against Duke there. The bats have just gone cold. Absolutely cold for that team. I don't, I'm a big believer in when a team shows you who they are, believe it. And I think this team has kind of showed us who they are over the back half of the season. Once the competition amped up, I can't even speak tonight. Once the competition ramped up a little bit, they kind of cooled down some. Under 500 against the better RPI teams. I think top 25 RPI teams, they're under 500 on the season. So not have not fared as well against the better competition. Bad news is you get out of that regional, you're very likely looking at going to Norman and facing Oklahoma, who has lost one game all season long. Best team in the country, without question. Heavy favorite. Got to be a heavy favorite to win it all again. But you look at it this way. If you're going to win it all as in softball, you have to go through Oklahoma. And with the tournament or the College World Series being in Oklahoma City, you're going to have to go through them in Oklahoma, in the state of Oklahoma. Maybe not their home field, but in that state. And it's going to be a heavy, heavy, heavy Sooners crowd. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. Supposed to have somebody come on here with me tonight to talk softball, but life happens sometimes. Doesn't work out that way. So I'm not going to do a big deep dive into softball the way I was planning on doing it, because I am certainly not the softball expert by any stretch. I have got to watch a few more games here over the past couple of weeks that I normally otherwise would have, because the baseball and softball have been playing at the same time. So we're gonna move on over to football. We're going to start right here. A whole lot of confidence from the Knowles and the experts that this is their year to take back the ACC. They are the media darlings. They are the media darlings. If you're a Clemson fan, I think you got to like this. I think Dabo Swinney excels when his team is not perceived as the favorite, when he's got that underdog card to play. I think that's when he is at his best. He knows what buttons to push in that scenario to get the best out of his players. We've seen it time and again. So I think Florida State getting all this preseason hype bodes well for Clemson. But when you look at these two teams on paper, I still think Clemson's the more talented team. Sure, Florida State's got the more experienced quarterback. No argument. Jordan Travis, and he's a good quarterback. They've got some playmakers at wide receiver. I still think Clemson's better on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm an old school guy. I still think defense is what wins championships. And we have the potential of seeing this game twice this year, once in Clemson, once in Charlotte. And I will be a little surprised if it doesn't play out that way, because I think Florida State's going to be good. I'm just not sure they're going to be that good. They are getting all this hype based off of that, 5-game winning streak they had to end the season, and they didn't beat anybody. Nobody of note. Clemson doesn't take their foot off the gas there in Tallahassee. That game's a blowout. Should have been a blowout. No excuse for it not to be a blowout, to be quite honest with you. I haven't said all that again. I do think Florida State's going to be pretty good. I just think they are the second best team in the ACC, not the best team in the ACC. I don't know anything about UNC's players and suspensions or anything like that. I have no idea. I can't answer that. I tend to lean towards this too. Brady says Clemson's going to beat Florida State by 10 or more. I tend to lean towards this. I'm telling you, I don't bet against Dabo Swinney when he is being looked at as the underdog. When's the last time he's been looked at, or his team's been looked at as the underdog in the ACC? You got to go way back to probably before the 2015 season. Florida State was, if I'm remembering right, Florida State was supposed to win that year. It might have been another year since then. I can't remember, but Clemson's been the favorite most years during this playoff run. So this is a little bit different for his Clemson team this year. And I'm telling you, if there is one coach that plays the underdog role to perfection, it is him. And it's going to be interesting to see how the media vote, like the ACC media at the ACC kickoff later this summer votes this thing. I am very curious to see if they actually vote Florida State as the preseason favorite to win the ACC championship, because this won't be, so much national media talking heads and national guys at ESPN. It'll be people that cover the ACC day in and day out, voting on this thing. It's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, see, I'm with you, Michael. Michael says Clemson's D will be the difference. I am of that mindset. The defense wins championships, and I think Clemson's got the better defense. I expect, we saw some growing pains in the transition from Brent Venables to Wes Goodwin. I think Wes Goodwin is going to be much more comfortable in that defensive coordinator role in year two. He goes in knowing what to expect. He's had a whole offseason to kind of self-scout, if you will, and see where he needed to, maybe tweak some things or areas he needed to prove in personally. So I expect Wes Goodwin to take a big jump as a defensive coordinator in his second year. Kind of like a player. A player oftentimes takes his biggest jump between his freshman and sophomore season. I can see that happening with Goodwin this year. He seemed like a lot more confident in the spring than he did, last fall camp and throughout the season sometimes. John says, let's see how FSU plays LSU game one. Yeah, I agree. Then we'll know how close they are to being the best in the ACC. Yeah, I agree 100%. They've got a big one to open the season. I don't know how many 5 stars has Georgia bought. Gotten verbals from so far. Wonder how many will stick. Yeah, they got a big one today from the 5-star quarterback, Dylan Raiola. He was already committed to, it's Ohio State. Backed off that, and it looked like he was trending towards Southern Cal. Now he's committed to Georgia. We'll see if it sticks. He already got one a wide receiver. I cannot talk tonight. One of Ohio State's top wide receiver commits already talking about how he's going to have to take a look at Georgia now that Raiola is committed to Georgia. So might be some more dominoes to swing with this thing. I kind of think Raiola will stick with this one. We'll see. I tend to lean towards thinking he'll stick now, but I can't tell you how many 5 stars Georgia's got already. They are absolutely swinging a big stick on the recruiting trail. Man, they are killing it. Clemson will be catching some balls that have a spiral to it this year. Yeah, I would have to agree. Clemson's probably going to get better quarterback play this year. Going into last season, I'll be the first to admit, I said it many times, I was willing to overlook what DJ Uiagalelei did in 2021 because I knew how hurt he was, and I knew he was more banged up than most of the public knew about. So I was willing to keep an open mind going into 2022. And, when the season first started, it looked like he was kind of right there, maybe taking that step and being what everybody thought he could be. He goes out and has that unbelievable game at Wake Forest. It looks like he's right there. And that was it. Outside of, one half against Miami late in the season, that was it. He was a train wreck the rest of the way. I can't sit here. I don't have a good explanation for it. I can give you my opinions, But other than that, that's all they are. And when you know what they say about opinions, we'll see what he does at Oregon State. I tend to think maybe he'll be a little bit better off at Oregon State, or maybe he needed to be somewhere where expectations of him weren't quite so high. I'm not sure that DJ maybe he's not the guy to be the face of one of the premier teams in college football, if that makes sense. I'm not sure he dealt with some of those expectations, as well as he could have. It seems like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders at times. And I'm sure some of the off the field stuff he went through didn't help either. We've all heard about some of that stuff, and no need to go into it again or anything, but different kids react to different situations differently. And again, I thought he looked like a kid with the weight of the world on his shoulders at times. Last year in the ACC championship game in Charlotte, he did not look like he wanted to be there, in my opinion. And his play kind of said that too. I forget how many passes he threw, 2 or 3, and at least 2 of them were dead in the dirt. I mean, he just both parties needed a fresh start. There was no way DJ could come back and be the quarterback of this team again. Clemson needed a fresh break. DJ needed a fresh break. Best for both parties involved. We'll see what he does up there at Oregon State, though. But I absolutely am a big believer in Cade Klubnik. The kid's got winner just written all over him. That's all he did in high school in one of the toughest high school divisions, not in the state of Texas, but in the country. They play big boy high school football in Texas, unlike what we see here in some areas of South Carolina. But I think that kid's a winner. I think he will get better the more experience he gets. Might be a few hiccups early. We'll see. New offense, inexperienced quarterback. I think by season's end, he'll be playing like a seasoned veteran. Yeah, Brady says the D-line is deep. Yes, Clemson's absolutely loaded on the interior of that defensive line. You can go 3 deep, both spots if you're playing a 4-man front. Maybe not quite so deep out at end. You absolutely need to keep Xavier Thomas healthy this year. Clemson needs a big year from him. But, if you're in a pinch, I think you can use Peter Woods, the freshman outside. He's a guy that, he's built like a defensive tackle, but he fits that Christian Wilkins mold where if you need to move him outside, you can, and he'll produce at a high level. I think TJ Parker, freshman defensive end, is going to be ready to play right away. And I also think we might see more 3-man fronts this year. We'll see how it plays out. Clemson defense plus Shipley and Maffa make the difference. Maffa's another guy that I have tooted his horn ever since the first time I watched his film. I know he was a fairly high 4-star recruit coming out of high school, but I still thought he was a little underrated. He is a monster, man. And, Clemson kind of came close to losing him in the offseason. Fortunately, it didn't. He decided to stick around. And I think that's going to pay dividends for him and the team. I fully expect him to be a much larger part of the game plan this year. I think you're going to see more 2-back sets. Maybe both, even if they're not in 2-back sets, both on the field at the same time, maybe Shipley split out wide some, or you know what I mean, in the slot, a little coming out of the slot or whatever. Different ways to get Shipley and Maffa on the field together. That's what I'm trying to say. Again, I cannot talk tonight. But we all know what you have in Will Shipley. And I think Maffa's got just as high a ceiling as Shipley does. I think he is a prototypical NFL running back. And, I think his potential is off the charts. Do I still think PJ Hall comes back after his strong performance this weekend? Yeah, I do. Barring him getting, a first round grade, I think he comes back. If he doesn't, that is a big blow for the basketball team because they, Brad Brownell's kind of recruited the portal as if, PJ Hall's coming back. They didn't go out and get somebody to take his place. They went and got somebody to, a guy or two to supplement him and back him up. So it's going to be a major blow if he doesn't come back. But PJ Hall strikes me as a kind of guy that, he knows that if he's not a first-round pick, it's probably in his best interest to come back. Sure, he could sign and go play overseas. I don't know. Maybe that's something he's interested in. I tend to lean towards thinking he would come back and try to improve his draft stock. I still think it's more likely he comes back than it does. It's more likely he comes back than he leaves. But we'll have to see what happens at the combine. If he goes out there and blows everybody away, and there's a possibility he goes late first round. I mean, then all bets are off. I think it was weird how DJ came on strong. Everybody got new confidence all of a sudden. Yikes! Like the pressure got to him. The dog's got to get her screen time every week. Never fails. Hey. Yeah, like I talked about a minute ago, I just don't know if I've talked about it on here before. I'm not sure. I think DJ is a great kid, person, however you want to say it. Down to earth for his age. Not sure. I'm not 100% sold on the fact he had the mental makeup to be the starting quarterback of the Clemson Tigers and kind of following Trevor Lawrence. Those were such big shoes to fill. And, I agree. I do think the pressure got to him a little bit. That's just an opinion from somebody on the outside looking in. I remember after the South Carolina game, we get it after all the players had done their media interviews. There was one member of the Clemson media looked at DJ and just looked at him and said, DJ, you got to let it rip, man. And, he just gives that DJ smile and says, I know. And that kind of stuck with me, I do think it was more about the mental stuff than it was the physical stuff. Don't think he was the best fit for the offense Clemson was running. Not sure they made some of the tweaks they were talking about making to tailor it to fit some of his strengths that they told him they were going to do when he was brought in. He had the COVID season. I don't know what happened. I don't know if any of that stuff ever got done. It didn't really look like it did. But yeah, brutal truth, as we sit here today and you're talking about busts in Clemson recruiting, DJ's got to be at or near the top of the list. And I hate saying that. I hate saying it, but that's just the brutal truth. Hey. DJ looked like a deer in the headlights after Syracuse. Yeah, it was that Syracuse game where he threw those 3 picks. It kind of went all off the rails after that. He did not look right after that. Very much appreciated there, dear. I need you to get that dog out of here. All right, the wife came and got the dog. Could Clemson have 2 running backs with 1,000 yards? Oh, no, I doubt it. I don't think they're going to be that run heavy. Internet chit chat about Lagway getting less happy with the Gators in their situation. Gossip or maybe some truth. I tell you what, that Mother's Day picture he posted yesterday with him in the Clemson uniform and his mom certainly didn't do anything to dispel any of that talk. He's got some of those Florida fans in a little bit of a panic. I have not heard anything about Clemson circling back to Lagway or him circling back to them. Not yet, anyways. I don't know. It's definitely worth keeping an eye on. That was something that caught my attention over the weekend. Absolutely. It's definitely worth monitoring. If not, at the very least, it was hilarious. At the very least, I don't know if he's trying to troll people or what the intent was, but it certainly got some people's attention. Do you have any idea on how much XT will weigh in the fall? No, not really. I wouldn't expect his weight to change very much, from what it was last year. Yeah, at the very least, A+ level trolling job by DJ Lagway. Absolutely. Any news on the QB recruitment? I don't really have a whole lot to add. Ethan Grunkemeyer is a guy Garrett Riley went and watched about 2 weeks ago. 3-star out of Ohio. He's probably a little bit better than that 3-star rating. If you turn on the film, man, he's got an arm. He can throw the ball. He can move around a little bit. He's a little he's mobile. He's got some mobility. Went to Penn State this weekend, and from my understanding, from what I was told, Penn State was going to push him for a commitment pretty hard. They want him to go ahead and jump on board. He didn't. He's still uncommitted. Still wants to have a decision by the end of the month, though. Told me late last week that he absolutely had he told me the plan was to get to Clemson before he made a decision. Now, whether that happens or not, we'll see, because they did not have all the details worked out yet, and they were still trying to finalize a date. I have not talked to him since. I'm going to check back in with him. I don't know, tomorrow or the next day if I don't hear anything. But we'll see. We'll see if that visit takes place. Again, Dabo Swinney's camps come up on the 31st. They going to be a bunch of kids roll through there. I don't know if there are any realistic 2024 kids coming to throw. We'll have to see who ends up coming to throw, and I don't know. Maybe somebody blows their doors off at camp, and they decide to go that route. I think we still got to. I don't get a good feeling about Grunkemeyer. Penn State's considered a favorite to land him, and with the time crunch, there's only 2 weeks left in this month. He wants to be committed before June official start. If he sticks to that timeline, I don't feel good about Clemson's chances. I mean, you're going to have to find somebody else. And with the 2 quarterbacks you already got on the roster, it makes it very difficult to pick and choose. You got to find somebody that's going to be willing to come in and compete with Vizina and sit at least a year, because Cade Klubnik is going to be here at least 1 more year, very possibly 2 after this season. So, I mean, it doesn't make for the ideal situation when you're trying to bring in a quarterback. Oh, back to baseball. I like this one. Do you anticipate Tristan Smith being the closer after closing out 2 games this weekend? I still think Ammons will be the closer, but I do think you can expect to see Smith used in very high leverage situations out of that bullpen. Absolutely. I'm not saying he won't ever close. We saw it yesterday when Ammons wasn't available. He is he's a good piece to have out there on a weekend when two of the best guys on the back end and Ammons and Rob Hughes get tattooed. You still got that guy you can turn to. Not sure he'll be the everyday closer. That'll probably still stay with Ammons. Doesn't mean you won't ever see him finish off a game. That's who they absolutely turned to last night when they needed somebody to get that last out. Talking about a guy whose potential is off the charts. When he gets full command of all of his pitches, Tristan Smith is going to be one heck of a pitcher for this Clemson baseball team. His stuff is electric. Yep, there you go. His arm is absolutely electric when he can control it. Debo likes to get his backups from grads in the portal, so maybe that's the plan for right now for 2024. That might end up being the plan. We'll see. It's definitely, something that I'm sure is on the table. You're not going to take a guy just to take somebody. There it is. The weekly Sammy Brown question. No, nothing new on Sammy Brown. Clemson, Georgia. Ask me again in about a month. I'll add one more thing to add on the recruiting front. I think I said it last week that I wasn't expecting Braylon Staley in for the official visit weekend. Scratch that. I have now been told he has told the coaching staff that he is coming. So that's a big time addition to that list. Not surprising. I kind of thought it might end up that way. If he wants to get to Miami that bad, he could do it later in June. If you want to get to Clemson for the official visit, you only got that one weekend. Yeah, I agree. That's big getting him there. That'll give you T.J. Moore, Wesco, Braylon Staley, Alex Taylor. All those guys will be there. I'm pretty sure Mike Matthews is confirmed he's coming. Edric Houston is confirmed he's coming. He'll be there. How do you feel about the receivers like Coleman and Turner? Coleman and Alex Taylor. I think Clemson's got work to do with Coleman. I would probably, as we sit here right now today, I would probably call Auburn the favorite. But I don't think it's an insurmountable lead, if you will. I think this is a recruitment that Clemson can win out in. Not saying they will. I just think the possibility is there. I think there are a lot of things that he likes about Clemson. I think there are a lot of things about the Clemson culture that kind of, I say it a lot, but resonates with him. So I think this is one Clemson can win. Got work to do that weekend when he gets here in June, but I think this is one that they can win. I'm saying they will. I just think the possibility is there. Alex Taylor, I really like Clemson's chances with him. North Carolina State, North Carolina, Clemson, those are really the three teams. He's going to take official visits to all. Clemson's first offer in this class, that's something that's kind of always stuck with him. I've had a couple of conversations with him, and it's something he's talked about both times. There's something that's always kind of stood out with him about Clemson. They made him their very first receiver offer in this class. But I feel, if you had to ask me which one I feel better about Clemson's chances with, I would say Taylor. But that doesn't mean I don't like their chances with Coleman. I think Coleman is a guy they can win out for. Again, the number is only 2. We'll see if it gets stretched. I'm not sure. All right, let me start that over. The number is only 2, but there's a little wild card in there by the name of Mike Matthews because he's listed as an athlete. Clemson started recruiting him as a defensive back. Now they're willing, now they're looking at him as wide receiver, yada, yada, yada. He's kind of being recruited as an athlete, so he doesn't count against that number. So 2 outside of that. If you land Matthews, I don't think Clemson would take a third receiver. If you miss on Matthews, now the question is, will you take a third receiver? Something to keep an eye on. Yeah, Houston will be there. I think Houston's a guy, Edric Houston, he's one of the top players in the class, one of the top defensive ends. I think he's a 5-star. Most of y'all that know me know I don't talk a lot about stars, but Houston is a guy that I saw at Clemson games 2 or either 3 times last season. So there's something that keeps bringing him back. This is another one I think Clemson can win. There are a lot of national guys out there that will tell you he seems like an SEC fit, but Clemson has always been said to be an SEC school playing in the ACC. But I get the draw to the SEC. I get it. I understand it. But I do think Houston is one they can win. Not saying they will. I'm just saying they are in it, and they are in it. They are in the thick of it. Yeah, the Magnificent Seven in the tweet from Brett McMurphy today. I get this is probably the thing I get asked about the most here lately. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech. Brett McMurphy says those are, he called them the Magnificent Seven. There's this thought out there that if the ACC got 8 teams to vote to leave, then the conference will be dead. The grant of rights wouldn't be enforceable, all that. I'm not sure how all that works. I've seen bits and pieces of the grant of rights, but I certainly haven't seen all of it. McMurphy just tweeted again that the ACC ADs just left their first meeting at the ACC spring meetings. Heads were down as they sped past the media contingent without talking. Their meeting went 66 minutes longer than scheduled. Look, it's no secret that Clemson, Florida State, and some other teams are exploring all of their options. They know nobody's going to come out and say it outright. Florida State's AD almost said it outright, but nobody's going to say it outright. The ACC is a sinking ship. There is no way it can survive under this current television deal through 2036. Not doable. Just can't. It can't happen. Now, as far as who's the schools together, maybe looking to break the grant of rights or trying to gather up enough votes to get out or whatever, I don't know. I would fully expect Clemson to be one of those schools. I'd fully expect Florida State to be one, Miami, North Carolina. I would definitely expect those 4. I could see Virginia Tech and even North Carolina State. Thing is, for me, if you're wanting to get out of ACC, you best have a landing spot worked out, because then you're going to be, kind of a team without a home if you work so hard to get out of something and you don't already have something worked out, somewhere to go when you get out. I think Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, I think those are 4 teams that would absolutely get picked up if the ACC died today. I'm not sure there are 8 teams in the ACC that would be immediately picked up. I'm just not sure there are. I could see it going maybe 5 or 6, but I'm not sure there are 8. That's what's going to make it hard to get those 8 votes if, in fact, that is the way it's laid out in the grant of rights, that it would take 8 votes to disband or dismember or whatever. As far as is there being any way to renegotiate the TV deal? No. The way you renegotiate those television deals and open up those grantor rights, for renewal is adding teams, and there's nobody out there to add. I mean, not a team that's going to move the needle enough to make you money instead of lose you money. If you could convince Notre Dame to jump on board, that would be a different discussion. But I just don't see that happening. Notre Dame has every intention on remaining independent. They're not far off from signing their own extension to remain independent. I think getting out is the hardest outcome. Changing the revenue sharing and changing the revenue potential seems much easier. College football playoff participants are getting hosed right now. Absolutely. I agree with this 100%. There's no way a football program like Wake Forest is bringing in the same amount of money a football program like Clemson is or Wake Forest is, but they are receiving the same share that Clemson, Florida State does. We've seen in the past, we have seen conferences with unequal revenue distribution. It doesn't generally work out in the end. I think if some of these ADs can get if some of these ADs that are pushing for unequal revenue distribution, if they can get a couple of others jump on board and get that thing passed and we go to that kind of model, I think the ACC is still, it might even end up being dead quicker. Conferences don't tend to last that way. Based on what I heard the last time I had some real conversations about this, and it was not very long ago. It's been in the last month. I think Clemson is out of the ACC by 2027 at the latest. At the latest. And if you look at some of the things Clemson's doing right now, adding women's gymnastics, the dental school, some things that make it look like maybe they're trying to get into the AAU. It looks like things kind of point towards the Big Ten. Now, that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It just, that's just the kind of the way it looks right now. I have a very trusted source that has told me that as it stands today, and obviously this could change tomorrow, next week, whenever, that as it stands today, that when the SEC decides to expand next, their next move is likely going to be wanting to move into North Carolina or Virginia. And that South Carolina would fight a Clemson move to the SEC tooth and nail. And I know the first thing that I said when I was told that, my response was, well, that didn't work out very well for Texas A&M with Texas. And I was told, do not expect that to be a precedent setter. That was kind of an exception, more so than it was going to be the rule going forward, that Texas had an open invitation that went back before A&M even joined. So it made it a little bit tricky. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, there's kind of always been this handshake agreement in the SEC where a team, a current member, can keep a school from the same state from joining the league. It's always been a myth that is one of the handshake agreements. And I'm told Florida would feel the same way about Florida State. Maybe not quite as strongly as South Carolina would about Clemson because the state's much smaller. But I don't know how that would work out. It's just there's so many variables in play. And for a lot of these guys talking about this stuff right now, I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but there are a lot of them out there that are just throwing stuff against the wall, hoping something sticks. And it's these national guys that are pushing a lot of this stuff. But we know there's going to be some movement. It's coming. Something's going to happen. And I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't hear something before the end of the year. I just think it's coming. I just don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if there's going to be a vote to disband or if somebody's going to challenge the grant of rights. Just don't know how it's going to play out. I got a good idea where we're going to end up. NC State thinks they are SEC bound. Hell, I'm not. I don't know. I think North Carolina might get that first call. I wonder if a few Sunbelt teams could really turn a corner with ACC Power 5 money. Probably. The only thing about that is, the way I see it, is if you add a couple of Sunbelt teams or any G5 teams for that matter. Let's say Central Florida was still available, and you add them and App State, let's say. I think they got to be worth it right now, not what they're going to be worth in 5-10 years. I just don't see adding those two schools to your league being worth $30 million a year, and that's about what they got to be worth if you want to put it in simplistic terms. I'm just not sure there's any school out there, any G5 school out there worth that right now. I don't know. It's just not no easy answers. Wouldn't want to go to the Big Ten, no natural rivalries and too far for travel for away games. I get it. There are more natural rivalries in the SEC, absolutely. But like John says right here, rivalries might very well be a thing of the past in the very near future. I still think we end up with, I don't know, somewhere between 40 and 60 teams, and they break off from the NCAA altogether, go off and do their own thing for football. I don't know if it's going to all be under the same umbrella or there'll be two different leagues, kind of like back in the old school NFL with the AFL and the NFL. I don't know if it'll be like that or if they'll play under the same umbrella and divide up into two conferences or divisions or what. But I still think that's where we're heading. 40, 50, maybe as many as 60 teams breaking off, going and doing their own thing, and it kind of being a semi-pro league where these guys draw salaries and there's a players union and all that good stuff. And the college football, as we know it, the amateurism is left to the teams that are left behind. Just one man's opinion. We know what they say about those. All right, man. I very much appreciate all y'all tuning in. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button every Monday night right here at 7. We're doing 2-3 baseball videos a week. I'm going to start, the closer we get to June, you can expect some more recruiting videos with some quick recruiting updates. It's easier. I'm finding that people like those quick video updates more so than to stretch out 300 words in a story when there's really only 2-3 minutes worth of stuff to say. So we're going to start leaning towards doing more of those. So be on the lookout for that. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to visit allclemsontigers.com, part of the Clemson Maven multimedia platform, covering all things Clemson sports. And I will see y'all back here next Monday.